Element 1. Momentarily step into your opponent's poke range and quickly back out instead of attacking. This is Footsie's 101. To see it in action, check out Mike Watson's Hyper Fighting Guile, demolishing some poor bastard 2 consecutive full rounds of toying with his opponent's natural reactions. This bait works well in tense matches, after extended periods of cautious zoning, or with charge characters who rarely walk forward. Well, that seems easy enough, but where am I gonna get started?
So this is me practicing element 1, which is what we're going to be seeing a lot of today, right? Is me practicing this. Is me dancing at the max range of her longest reaching poke, which is stand heavy kick. The way I train the Footsie's element is I do at least a minimum 100 games, 20 games maximum per day, 100, I have to do 100 games minimum practicing that specific thing, and then I move on to the next element.
Several days later.
That's right. I really did it. 100 games in 5 days, which might not be a lot to some of you if you're a grinder, but for me, this is a decent amount. This is a lot of games for me, especially because I only used one strategy the entire time. And before I show you any gameplay, I think we should talk about the match distribution, how these 100 matches came to be. Most of it was me playing Chun-Li on my second account in Plat. I went from, I think, 10,000 LP up to maybe 12,500, and I definitely would have hit Diamond if I continued to play it on that account. But once I hit Ultra Plat, it felt kind of counterintuitive because I was getting matched with some people that I was already playing with on my main account, low diamond players like me. So I ended up switching back to my main account, which you'll see there in the bottom left. Takes up about 25% of the matches, and I played some Cammy and some Chun-Li, right? I ran into a very wide array of people who were my level, people who were way better than me, people who were a little bit worse than me. And finally, the rest of the matches took place in battle lounges, not just with my friends who are high level players, but I also just went into battle lounges, looked through the match finder, and found some low level players too, just to see how this strategy works. The strategy of just standing outside of somebody's max range poke and seeing what happens, to see how effective that is against all levels of player. And just dancing around that max range area for whatever character you're playing against proved to be a lot more effective than I thought. You can kind of see it right here. I'm not, going crazy trying to dash in and take up all this space. I'm just hanging out. I made a button whiff right there. I didn't whiff punish it. Probably could have with stand heavy punch. Chun's stand heavy punch is really good. Reaches really far. But I at least got the button to whiff, I guess. I didn't walk into it like I normally would have. While playing with this strategy, you start to learn that sometimes walking forward is more of a liability than it is a gain, because the other person is just mashing a big button, a long button or a poke or something like that you can easily just walk into range and then walk back and make it whiff, just like the Footsie's Handbook said. It's an incredibly effective strategy because even though I said we're using one strategy, we're using one technique of just sitting at max range, dancing in and out of that range, what you start to notice is that you subconsciously pick up on things while you're in that range. When he approaches you and he presses a button, you say, oh, I think I've seen that button before. I think I see a pattern here. Maybe you don't, consciously say it to yourself, but subconsciously you see a leg or a hand or something, right? Just come out over and over again. And you say, oh, hey, I recognize that. Maybe we can make that whiff. Maybe that's something he likes to do a lot. Maybe we can crush counter it. You think of these things without really thinking about it. It just comes to you. But only if you stick to the strategy and you don't get angry, right? There were a few games that I didn't include on the board here because they weren't quality matches. They weren't element 1 matches. They were me getting angry and doing wake up DP 3 times and dying on Cammy because I was angry, and I didn't count those matches. These are 100 quality matches where I stuck to the plan and things went right. You have to control yourself. That's the best way I can say it. And I'm kind of projecting onto you because it's what happened to me. You see here at the 95th game where it's circled, that's when I kind of lost my temper for the first time. Throughout this entire 100-game saga, that was the first time the strategy stopped working. That was the first time I realized element 1 is just that. It's element 1 of like 39. And even though it got me super far, it got me all the way up to diamond pretty much, which is, I don't know the rank distribution anymore. Let's just say top 1%, top 2%, not to my own horn or anything. Just just give me this, right? It's 1% or whatever. It took me that far. But the other 38 elements are what separate the 1% from the 0.1%. And that is something pretty incredible. But 39 is such a daunting number. How can we take element 1 and build on it directly, right? Because if you go to element 2, it starts talking about doing block strings that leave you out of reversal range. And it does build on it to an extent. But what can we do with element 1 in terms of spacing in order to stay in the same mindset, that build on things instead of just forgetting about it like I usually do, like you might usually do? And lo and behold, I found my answer on Zaffarino's channel again. This is a 54-minute video on the different zones that you find yourself in neutral. I'm going to try and attempt to give you a layman's version, a very quick TLDR version of how I understand the different zones. But if you want a really valuable in-depth video to watch and you have some time, check this out. I'm going to leave it in the description below. So as far as I understand it, when it comes to zones, we're cutting the stage into different sectors, and we call those zones, right? When you spawn in, right, when everybody's standing here ready to get started, we're in zone 3 probably. As you get closer, this could be maybe zone 2, and right up against each other is zone 1. And it works the same way. If you're starting right here, you walk backwards. It's probably zone 4, full screens, probably zone 5. Now, when we're using the element 1 strategy, or when I was using it, I was playing back here in maybe zone 4 or 5 because I'm trying to make big buttons whiff. I'm trying to make their biggest pokes whiff, and I'm kind of just moving in and out of maybe ranges 3 and 4, or maybe ranges 4 and 5 if it's like, I don't know, Dhalsim or something. That strategy starts to not work whenever they realize it. Whenever they realize you are just willingly giving up space in order to stay out of range of anything they might do, they start just walking at you. And this is where the problems begin, because you just continuously start to give up space until you corner yourself. And it's not a fun game to play. And so we realized that the game does not only take place in zones 4 and 5. It takes place within 3, 2, and 1 as well. But we have to understand what are the possibilities that can happen within the each ranges, right? So if I'm playing in zones 4 and 5, I understand that from this range, Ken's only options are to run stop at me, to jump, to quadruple dash or something, or to throw a fireball. Well, most likely, maybe this player is a fireball heavy Ken, so I'm looking for a fireball. Maybe he's a jump heavy Ken, so he does triple jump at you. Or maybe he's random and he's wild and he does double dash sweep, right? He's a dash heavy Ken. That's like when you start to learn about tendencies and you start to say, well, at this range, this is how he likes to get to me, right? And then maybe he likes to back up, and then you take up space and you start playing in different zones. It's about understanding what can happen at each zones and eliminating all the other stuff, right? Because at zone 4, sweep is not an issue. He cannot hit me with any button from here, right? He can't hit me with sweep. He can't hit me with stand heavy punch or anything like that. So I'm not worried about it. And so I gained some knowledge, but more importantly, I gained a way to fix my mental stack, to be in zones 4 and 5 and understand that I'm looking for a fireball, and then to walk into zones 3, 2, and 1 and understand that fireball is no longer reactable, so I shouldn't be looking for it. Or maybe it is. You know, maybe you're cracked at the game. I don't know. I can't react to a fireball very close to somebody, though, right? So I'm not going to look for it. Instead, I'm going to look for medium buttons, or I'm going to look for buttons that I know are going to whiff within this range that I'm playing in. It's about prioritizing different things in your head to understand what it is you need to do. That's all I got for you today. I know this was a little bit of a different video. I want you to let me know if you liked it in the comments below. I personally am very proud of it. I'm very proud that I did this, that I actually set a goal, I stuck to it, and I completed it. And I want to thank Zaffarino for all of his videos. If you guys don't watch his channel, you should. If you're really trying to learn fighting games on a much deeper level, you should go check his channel out. So that's all I got to say for today. I hope you enjoyed this one. And if it helped you, please consider subscribing. I'll talk to you again very soon.